Hey everyone, and welcome to the Level Design Lobby. We're going to be talking with our brilliant and lovely producer, Alex Partridge, discussing more about what got him into video games. So without further ado, we're going to dive straight into this one. Hey everyone, I hope you're well playing and or making the games that you love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears. An absolute pleasure to have you listening to us today. As I said earlier, this one is about the brilliant and wonderful Mr. Alex Phenomenal Partridge here. That's phenomenal with a P.
I'm sensing a theme here. Yeah,
it's going to happen. And so, this is a brilliant one for everyone. As for those of you who may not have heard, we did an episode recently called Game Memories, where I was joined alongside my brother and previous guest, Dan Howard, to discuss some of the gaming memories we had, what brought us to the medium, what do we enjoy about it, how we're watching it evolve. And I thought it was a brilliant one because Alex is obviously a regular on the show, coming on about once a month, if not more, here and there, and constantly helping me out with the show. So I thought it'd be nice to have Alex come on to this as well, so that we can discuss similar questions, similar things that got him excited about this medium. He's smiling because he knows he's excited to be here as well.
I'm a little bit nervous, actually, being in the hot seat for a change. It's not a position I very often find myself in, so go easy on me, Max, that's all I'll say.
I'll try my hardest, but I'm a horrible human being, so I can't promise anything. With that. So I've already given Alex the questions before we start the show, just so, again, he has some way to outsmart me and sound much more intelligent as he normally does than I do by using his thesaurus to join us with his answers. But no, it's going to be a good one, man. I'm glad you're here. So we're just going to go into this one, man. So get ready for some questions coming at you. The Thunderdome.
Lay 'em on me, brother. Lay 'em on me.
Okay, so the first one then. Just to take it back to the beginning then, mate. What is the first game that you remember playing?
I mean, you throw it back to anyone and say, what's the earliest thing you remember from your childhood? And it's always a really, really hazy memory. You're never quite sure of when it was or what it was you're doing. It's one of those, and some of the early game stuff for me really falls into that category. Like, I don't know where I know where I was, but I have no concept of what order events happened in, and it's one of those ones where I'm not quite sure if it was perhaps console gaming that came in first for me, or if it was PC games, because having thought about it a little bit, what comes to me first is DOS games on PC. So we're talking, mid-90s. My dad was quite a techie person, so I take very much after him in that regard. So we pretty much had a computer in the house for as long as I can remember when I was a child. So those DOS games really jump out as the earliest examples I can think of games that I played. Again, because it's such a distant thing, I couldn't even tell you what some of them were. It's literal like flashes in my mind of what I can see. Don't know what the point of the game was, let alone what the games were called. It's that loose thread that I just can't really grasp. But I remember playing those, and I remember watching my brother play them. It's that level. It was sort of a pairing there. But some of the ones I do remember are things like there was a Lion King game. I remember on DOS it was quite difficult, which for like a 3 or for like a 4 or 5 year old, I think was like a really hard ask to play. There were older games were quite tough on players, I think, especially back then. But I remember the DOS game side of it specifically because I remember having to be shown how to get into the games and how to load them. And of course, back then you used to have to restart your machine in MS-DOS mode and then like command prompt it, typing CDs, navigating directories, all that. So I remember all of that, but as to the exact title, I genuinely couldn't tell you. We're reaching very far back now.
No, man. Well, I guess then, is there, I guess, a game that impacted your childhood, I guess, that, you know, one that you can remember? It doesn't matter of age, but, you know that you just fell in love with.
Oh, that's an easy one. I think your mate may have mentioned it on his Game Memories episode, so I feel a little bit like I'm copying him here, but genuinely, a massive one for me when I was young was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Right.
I was absolutely nuts for Sonic the Hedgehog. It was ridiculous. Like, you're talking, like, I think I had like a Sonic bedspread and all that. I think I've still got somewhere back at my parents' house. I think I've got Sonic and Tails plushies.
Oh.
So I like teddies. I was full on nuts for Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was an amazing game and an amazing franchise to play as a child. Again, notoriously difficult in places, so it would always be the case if I would only ever get so far in Sonic and just couldn't really get any further. But yeah, no, Sonic definitely was the big one for me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome for it. So, what was it, I guess, that drew you to Sonic? Like, you know, I mean, it's hard to, I guess, remember what it was as a child, but, you know.
I don't know. I think as a kid, you just find yourself drawn to different mediums, be it like a cartoon or something. And like you said, there's not really an explanation as to why. I just really loved the character of Sonic, even though he didn't really ever say much. I don't know. It's just a real intangible quality about this. I just can't really put it down to it. I just know I was obsessed with Sonic, and I just don't know why. Maybe that's all I need to. Maybe that's all I need to say. It was just there, something I loved and enjoyed.
Yeah, man. No, that's cool. So it's safe to say you loved the whole line of him turning into a were-hedgehog then?
I mean, but I think by that point I'd like sort of long departed the Sonic franchise. Like, that was a good number of years later. I remember trying to play, was it Sonic 06 on the Xbox 360?
It's been a lot of Sonic games.
I mean, that one was notoriously, I don't really want to like trash talk it, but it was a notoriously like not very well received game.
Yeah.
It just didn't play very well. It was quite a clunky attempt, I think, to sort of bring Sonic up to, you know, next gen as it was back then, because obviously the Xbox 360, PS3, that era was a big push forward in terms of like console power and graphics and everything like that. And I get what they were trying to achieve. I just don't think it quite worked. Yeah. And obviously by that point, I think Sega had lost a lot of their presence in the industry in terms of like their, you know, the sort of the power and influence they used to wield had long diminished by that point. And I think, which is a shame really, because like I say, I always liked the Sonic as a character. I really loved Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube. That was a real fun like game to play. I spent way too many hours in the Chow Garden or whatever it was called,
right,
where you used to look after the little the little creatures, and you could like, you know, raise them to be good or evil. But so, you know, the death of Sonic as like a main sort of game character was, you know, it makes me a little bit sad, because you know, everyone loves that sort of. Everyone loves looking back to their childhood and thinking, "Oh, that was awesome." It's a shame, you know, there's nothing like that anymore. But I don't know. Sonic was very much, I think, a product of his time, like a sort of very typically 90s sort of rad protagonist type character, and you don't really see much of that anymore. And I think for some people there will always be a place for a character like that, but I don't think now is really the right time for that sort of game or character anymore. People want more out of their games than that nowadays. You know, which, like I said, it makes me a little bit sad, but in a way, I'm kind of glad that things have moved forward in the way they have.
No, I understand, man. Do you think you'll get one of those? Is it the Mega Drive Mini? Because I saw they sell them.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I've never really been particularly attracted to the whole idea of sort of mini consoles. Like, it's a great idea, but I think I still have my Sega Saturn, which I used to play Sonic on back at my parents' house, and I believe it still works. At least the last time I tried it, it worked. Granted, that was probably like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it worked last time, so it still works. So if I'm ever really, really desperate for a fix of Sonic or one of the other games I had, I could easily break that out again and play it there. Like old school, how nature intended, Max.
How nature intended.
Yes.
Yeah, mate.
None of that emulator crap in here.
We do it by the books here. Yeah, I must admit I need to rebuy a PlayStation 1. That's what I want to... I've got the Mini, but I want to get the OG one myself. So yeah, no, that's it.
When you say the Mini, do you mean like the sort of re-released one, or
yes,
because they released a small PS1?
Yeah, that's the one I've got.
Because then they had like the original boxy one, didn't they?
Yeah, so I've got the one that came out last year, end of last year, 2018. So I've got that, but like with most of these mini consoles, it only comes with 20 to 30 games. Well, there's some games, that I would like to play again, which are missing from this collection. So I would like to get round to buy. I mean, I saw one in CEX for £18, so I should probably just get in on that. And just because one day I'd love to have like all the consoles lined up, all the PlayStation ones
on a shelf and stuff.
Just ready.
If I ever get like a place of my own, like as in owned outright, I'm totally like bringing out all the gaming stuff I still have stashed at my parents' house in boxes, and putting them all right up on display. It's something I long to do, and I'll probably not get to do for a few years yet, but I'm sure my parents will be glad when I finally do that, getting rid of all my crap out of their storage cupboards and stuff.
Yeah, mate. But that's what parents are for, storing all of our rubbish, I
love you, Mum.
Yeah, I'm sure she is an avid listener. Then I guess, mate, what is it that you enjoy most about this medium of video games? What is the allure of this medium compared to others?
I mean, again, this is probably something a lot of people say, but it's the interactivity. Like, to me, that's just part and parcel of what makes games such a unique medium. Like, don't get me wrong, I love nothing more than a good book or TV series to sink my teeth into, or a good bit of escapism with a fantastic film. But just that interactivity and the feedback that you get from games, it's instant. It's a part of it's almost intangible. It's like you can't quantify quite what it is. You just know that it's doing something different. It's doing something that's satisfying, and just it wants to keep you engaged. It wants to let you know that whether you're doing good, doing bad. And I think it's that active role that you play. I mean, other mediums are excellent for escapism, and it's easy to lose yourself in any work of fiction or artwork. But the fact that most other types of media are passive in their consumption, there's no active participation. You are the main character in the games. Regardless of whether they're using no name or the character's name, you feel like you are in the shoes of that character, and that what's happening there, what's happening in front of you, is happening to you, and it's just a wonderful way to lose yourself in a story, I think. And that's the magic of games, to me.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think it's a valid reason. I do not accept your answer, Alex.
Why, Max? What did I say? What did I say wrong? Love games? Love game design? We do too. So why not help us here at Level Design Lobby spread the word? With Patreon, from as little as $1 per month, you can do just that. And new for 2019, we have more reward tiers and even more awesome perks on offer, such as access to our community Discord, level design weekends, exclusive talks by professional designers, one-on-one sessions, and much more. Sound interesting? Then head on over to patreon.com/leveldesignlobby for more information and to pledge your support today. As always, we'd like to say a massive thank you to all the game gurus who've backed us so far. It's thanks to your generous support that we can continue to grow, pursue new opportunities, and bring you new, awesome, and exciting content. So thank you. And now back to our regularly scheduled programme.
And with that then, because you said, Sonic was one of your favourite growing up, one of the most memorable. But as you mentioned earlier, the times have changed. Games are ever changing in terms of how they're made and the process of them and the actual products itself. So is there a certain, any favourite games that that you class, I guess, as your favourites now to this current date?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I've played plenty of really, really good games, but it's one thing to say I've played a good game, and it's another thing entirely to say this is like a favourite, or this is like the cream of the crop of all the games I've played. But if I had to pick one, for me it would probably be Journey. And I know to some people that is quite a controversial choice. Some people look at it, and I've heard varying opinions about it in other quarters. Some people think it's overrated. Some people think it's doesn't really do anything, and it's sort of got quite a mixed opinion about it. But for me, that game was just such a wonderful mixture and harmony of mystery, of stunning visuals, and beautiful music. I think that game has done more, I'd say, in sort of influencing how I approach and judge not only the games that I play, but also the games I want to make. Because for me, Journey was an experience. It sort of went above and beyond, the sort of normal stories or notions of gameplay, and just did something different. And I liked that. It wasn't trying to be something big. It wasn't trying to say, hey, we've got 100 hours of gameplay. It wasn't trying to claw you back constantly with lures of loot boxes and online multiplayer action. It was presented as is, and it was just such a wonderfully refreshing, different experience as well. And I think and interestingly, I went and played the game after having heard a bit about it. Like, I didn't approach it with a completely blank slate. I sort of kind of knew what I was getting in for. I played it after a talk by Austin Wintory, the composer at AnimeX. I think that was the year you and me helped out, wasn't it? 2013. And I just remember being so swept away by what it was he had been saying, and just by his demonstration of sort of his music, and it just really piqued my interest. And like I say, it's not a perfect product. Like, it's, to say any game is perfect, I think is very dangerous territory to tread, but just as an experience, as something that was just a bit different, like, you can't beat that. It was just such a wonderful game to play.
No, man, I completely agree. For those who don't know, AnimeX is a games conference held in Middlesbrough as well. And when Alex talks about when we helped out, it's because we were referred to as the Red Shirts, not to be confused to that of the Red Shirts of Star Trek, because we're still alive.
I was going to say we're not quite that disposable, but
but yes, and yeah, it's basically where students get to attend a conference with people, and as Alex mentioned, Austin was there. Sorry, yeah, I completely agree with you. It was a phenomenal game, in my opinion. I think it had a massive impact in the industry, like a really big one.
You can sort of see echoes of it in games that have been sort of since, that are also trying to sort of do things similar. Like a big one I think you've pointed out in the past was Rhyme. That's also does something very similar. Again, a game I liked and really, really enjoyed. Like, more gameplay, I'd say, than Journey. Journey was a bit more sort of ambient, a bit more sort of low-key in what it was doing, but Rhyme equally is enjoyable. Again, probably on the list as well, but I could go on for for ages about what games I've enjoyed playing. So
yeah, man, I think that's it. No, I think Journey is a very, very good choice, because I think it also revived a genre that had been gone for a while. Because to me, before that, the only, and please correct me if people think of any others, but before that was really just Ico. Maybe Shadow of the Colossus could be counted in the same vein, but definitely more Ico for that. And then you said Journey came along, and phenomenal. But with going that, we'll move a bit forward. I'm going to skip a question because I just want to ask you this one instead, because you do play games online. Like before we even spoke, you're going to play some Division 2 after we finish recording up here. And you helped me play Overwatch to help me get better at that. We played Lucio Ball, got on a massive hot streak at one point, and then lost it real fast. But I was going to say, how do you feel? Because you mentioned Journey is one of your favorite games, and that's a very well, there is multiplayer in it, but primarily it is a solo experience. How has online games changed, I guess, your opinion on games and how you play with games? Because you do play quite a bit of online as well.
I think because I think you and me both grew up in a time, certainly in our early childhood years, maybe sort of into our early teens, where online multiplayer wasn't a guaranteed thing. In fact, most games back then were single player or local multiplayer. So, online multiplayer was the exception, whereas nowadays it's almost expected. I think a lot of gamers seem to expect it in the games that they buy, and they see games that, especially sort of more mainstream gamers, sort of people who sort of subscribe to the AAA train type of thing. I think a lot of people expect it. And they see any product as not having multiplayer, as not being worth their time or worth the money, and I think that's a real shame. Like, don't get me wrong, I love multiplayer. I think the sort of potential it has for social interaction as well as replayability is great. Pointing to the example you said there, the Division 2, obviously that at the time of recording that launched just last week. I may have played a little bit more than should be allowable in that time, but a fine example of a game that is equally as fun either on your own or in a squad of people. It scales itself perfectly to those two different type of experiences, and the replayability you get out of online games is fantastic. Obviously, another example there, Overwatch. Its entire modus operandi is online. It lives and dies based on whether it's on its player population. If people don't play it, it doesn't survive. And that's great and all, but like I say, that sort of expectation of online features, it's sort of a double-edged sword for me. Like I really like it. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I think there's still a lot of untapped potential in the market. There's a lot more things I think that game companies could experiment with in the way, in the mechanics they design and the systems they implement. Yeah, so it's got a long way to go, but for me there will always be a place for single player games, like a solo experience where you can it's just you and the game sitting down together in a room. It doesn't matter, you're not getting a massive kill streak. It's not a competition. It's you and the game, and sharing a wonderful experience together. And like I say, it has impacted how I play, definitely. Like I say, the time I spend playing games has probably increased as a result of online play, because obviously they're designed to keep you coming back. But other than that, yeah, it's definitely not a make or break thing for me.
Yeah, man, no, that's cool and interesting to hear of that, mate. Like I said, like online has changed things a lot, in terms of in many aspects of the industry. So yeah, no, I think that's an interesting one. And before we go and wrap this episode up, mate, because Alex shot me the look of you're eating into my division time. Then gave me the eye.
You're painting a picture of me, Max. That's just not accurate. Like I've not got a problem. Okay.
Alex P.
Get off my back.
Alex P. for multiplayer partridge is here now. That'll be next week's introduction for sure. I'm just going to be P, but just have nothing to do with the letter. Alex P. Equilibrium partridge.
I look forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to get this one.
Keep me on my toes, Mac. That's all I'll say. Keep me on my toes.
That's it. But I guess I was going to ask, is there any trends or... Excuse me. Is there any trends or even upcoming things that you're seeing that you excite you about where the industry is moving forward?
I think if you could sort of ask, if there was like one wish that I had, or something I'd like to see. We had this a few years ago. You'll remember this quite well when 2D platformers made a big had a big renaissance period. Like you couldn't move in any direction without whopping your head against a new 2D platformer, and it almost became a parody of itself. The genre, it just got so overwhelmed by just all manner of different products and games, and that's not to like paint them all with a broad stroke and say that they were all bad, because that's just not the case. Like some of them, obviously I can't have played them all, but some of them will have done some really interesting things and sort of lifted the genre to new heights. And something I would quite like to see is a similar renaissance, but for 3D platformers. So when we were growing up, we had things like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Banjo-Kazooie, yeah, all titles like that. And it's a genre that's never gone away, but it's not the powerhouse of entertainment that it used to be. And I would quite like to see that genre make a resurgence again, because it's a genre that I'm quite fond of, and I think has a lot of potential. Right up until the point where, like 2D platformers, it becomes a parody of itself, and everyone's like, "Oh no, not more 3D platformers." But up until that day, I personally would like to sort of make content that sort of borderlines or sort of leans towards that genre, because like I say, I think it's got quite a lot of potential. Other than that, like technologically, things like VR and things like that, like it feels like they've died down a little bit. I think in the past couple of years, 2-3 years ago, it seemed like that was very much the destination the industry was moving in, and I think that there's still an audience for that content, and it's content that I really like designing and making for. I love the immersion of it. I love the design challenges that it brings to your work as well. It's a really interesting thing it's a really interesting set of sort of limitations and specifications to work to. So I'm a little bit sad that sort of died down a little bit, because I say I think it's got quite a lot of potential. Will it make a comeback in years to come? Who knows? It's another one of those things that lives and dies based on whether people play it or adopt it or not. And as an industry, as creatives, we have to sort of respond to that. But if we lose that, I think that'll be a real shame. Yeah,
man, it's an interesting one. And for those who don't know, Alex worked on a VR game called Esper 2. Sorry, wow.
Esper 2.
Yeah,
the distinction is important.
And honestly, I played that. I was very, very blown away by it, mate. It was especially because it was on the Samsung.
The Gear VR, yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, no, there's a lot with that I really enjoyed with with it. So no, it was a phenomenal one, mate. A very phenomenal game for the technology. But again, mate, I just want to thank you very much for coming on and doing this and letting the people get to know you a tad better.
That's no problem. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. It's good to have you. We'll try do more episodes moving forward with yourself in them, so I can think of crazy ways to introduce a P where it doesn't belong.
What I want to know is when is it going to be your turn in the hot seat? Because we've yet to have a Game Memories Max Pairs edition.
I don't know, mate. I don't know if people would care for it, to be honest with you. You know, I think they're sick of my voice as it is. No,
I mean, some of them must care. I mean, at least a dozen people listen every week.
at least it doesn't.
Yeah, at least.
It's just because my gran doesn't know how to use an iPad, so she has everything streaming. You know, bless her cotton socks. Maybe we'll do a bit more on that one. I'd like to do something at some point, but you know, so many episodes to do, so many other ones to think of.
So much content, so little time.
Exactly. So maybe we'll do one moving forward. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to wrap this one up. So thank you very much again, sir, for coming on and doing this, mate. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
And yeah, so if you do want to reach Alex, you can tweet to him at...
I am at Alex M. Partridge.
Notice there is no P. Don't be fooled how I introduce him. And if you want to email in, you can at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com, or contact me at MaxPairs on Twitter. And yeah, if you want to support the show, please do so on Patreon. We've got some amazing game gurus already there. So we thank you all very, 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 very much for support, because of you lovely gurus, that makes the show better and better. So thank you again. And yeah, I guess we'll catch you all next time. See ya.
Bye now.